Welcome to Art Ed Radio, the podcast for art teachers. This show is produced by the Art of Education, and I'm your host, Tim Bogats. I just finished a great book. It was called Artist, Lover, Forger, Thief by Sheila Sharpe. And let me tell you, it was riveting. Finished it in a day and a half. And everyone in the art world, okay, and honestly, most of our students are always interested in art crime and art forgery. So when I first got my hands on this book, my original thought was, oh, could this book be good for the classroom? Could this be an interesting way to hook kids or find something engaging for them? And let's just say that's not the case. All right. Within the first chapter, you realize this book is not going to be classroom friendly, but the book is great. And if you have an interest in art, I would recommend it. It's entertaining. It's complex. It's fast paced. And there's so many nods to famous painters and famous paintings as we dive deep into art history. So if you like thrillers or you like crime novels, I will definitely recommend it. It is a compelling read. Oh, I'm lucky enough to have the author, Sheila Sharpe, on the podcast today. She is coming on as an author, but also as a former art teacher and a psychologist. So we'll have a lot to talk about. Not only the book, but maybe some teaching stories, some art history, some conversations about art crime and forgery. A lot to get through. So let me bring her on now. Okay, Sheila Sharpe is joining me on the show now. Sheila, how are you?
Well, somewhat mixed. Really happy to be here because it took quite a job to get here.
I was going to say we had some technical difficulties getting this all put together, but you are here now. We have a lot of exciting stuff to talk about. So thank you for coming on. Thank you joining me. I would love to, if we can, just begin with an introduction. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your work?
Most currently, I just launched my first novel on Sunday, and that's been occupying a huge amount of time. I mean, it's extremely exciting, but it was very stressful.
Yes, I'm sure.
If I'm not launching my first novel, which is, by the way, a long process. I mean,
I'm sure.
The publication part and so on, but otherwise, I practice as a psychologist part-time. Anytime I can, I write. I was kind of working on being less of a workaholic, but it just hasn't taken yet.
Not yet. So, okay. So I wanted to ask you, we have an audience of art teachers here, and I know you have worked as an art teacher in the past. I know people would love to hear about that. So can you just tell us, I guess, about your art career, about how you got into art teaching, and if you have any, I guess, good stories to share from your time in the classroom?
Yes, I know that question really brought up memories, I have to say. Well, of course, my interest in art goes back to pretty much early childhood when I just fell in love with making art as a little kid. And along with that, as I grew a little older, I mixed that with writing. So I illustrated my own books as after I got able to do that.
I love it.
And I wrote my first novella at age 11, which was not focused on art, but the top, I think, at that point early in my life was to be an artist, secondarily a writer. And so I was an undergraduate art major, and after I graduated, I didn't get into the Yale graduate that had all these famous people teaching.
Right.
So I plotzed myself in New Haven and took an art teaching job at Sleeping Giant Junior High. Now, granted, and this is where I have so much respect for teachers. I had no training in education. I just had training in how to do painting, sculpture, etc. And so it turns out you really need training in education. Was especially seventh and eighth grade.
Oh my goodness! Yes,
It's
yes.
not the easiest group to break in. And I like kids, and I thought this might work out okay, even though I didn't know how to run a classroom. But it was really tough. So I think the problem was not so much I could think of things to teach, and they had a rather stringent curriculum in this place. I mean, you teach perspective, teach color theory, it was really quite elaborate. But the thing was, you had to be able to keep order in the classroom in order to teach it.
Right, right.
And I just didn't know jack about that. I tried to be nice, and that wasn't working at all. Now, the thing was, I had different groups, and I think I must have had one class full of all the difficult students in the school. No teacher wanted to be dealing with, and they were all in my art class. So that was kind of a hellish interlude. And then I had people at the top, or kids that were at the top of the heap, in terms of testing and intellect and all that. And they were kind of a joy. I mean, because they cared about learning something, and then they could listen to me at least from a little bit. And so I did enjoy that class, but I was up most nights planning how to teach something, because I didn't know some of the techniques of this age group, what I know, like potato printing, or so I would be up in the night teaching myself these things. And of course, with the potato printing class, that didn't go terribly well with the group that loved to torture me. But they started rolling these things down the hallway. Meanwhile, in the classroom above me, there was a philosophy graduate student from Yale who was desperately needed a job. And so he had no training on how to teach anyone either. So upstairs above me, all the students were drumming their feet on the ceiling of my room. The students in my room, two of them snuck out, were rolling potatoes down the hall. Okay, that is a memory that ought to inspire all of you. I have to say, though, just based on these experiences, I have the greatest admiration. The woman across the hall from me, well, she had been trained, and she said it was no picnic even being trained. And she would give me advice, that I can't really do this nicey nice thing. That was ridiculous. And I couldn't be a severe boss type person, because then they just resented you and did passive aggressive stuff, not aggressive. So I had support from the other teachers, and they sympathized because they'd been through it, even though they had training. So that was that. And I thought, gee, I can't do this job. I'm not suited. I'm just not. I like the kids, but, I really liked working with them one-on-one. The group was more difficult. But then when I ultimately did get into art graduate school at UCSD, I taught the undergraduates. And even though I was just a TA, they basically gave me the course. So, and I could do that. And that was a totally different thing. I mean, the students cared, and they listened to what you said, and it was fun watching their work improve. And so now I can't bring back a standout experience other than I just thought, this is so great. I thought I wouldn't want to ever teach again, but I like
I don't
that.
know. I mean, I feel like rolling potatoes down the hallway would qualify as a standout experience. Like that is something memorable. Well, and that's something like everyone who's taught middle school is like shaking their head yes right now, going, yeah, I can see where that would happen. I understand that. So
Oh, I think to put it all together is just incredible.
let's talk about the book though, because I think we're all kind of fascinated by art forgers, like people who are forging paintings. And so I guess a two-part question. First of all, like what piqued your interest with the idea of forgery? And then what made you think that, art forgery should play a role in your novel?
Okay, sure. I think it was the coming together, first of all, of many things. That I had been a lifelong mystery thriller fan. I had been a lifelong, art person. So crime, I was naturally drawn to art crime. And,
Okay.
and so I certainly read on the subject, and I certainly started to read, being in psychology, all the many of the biographies and memoirs of the very famous art forgers. And I tell you, they are the most fascinating stories. And I
Hmm.
just got totally hooked. And I thought, God, I want to write about one of these guys. Now, meanwhile, in my practice, I had a couple of kind of shady art collectors. And
Okay.
I saw a couple of dubious dealers, art dealers, we might call them. And then really, really stunning was this couple that were con artists, and you can imagine what their problems were about. But anyway, these types of folks don't usually come to therapy, but
Right.
I got lucky somehow. But they really opened the door to the art underworld, and in a kind of direct way. So I wasn't just reading about it, I was hearing about it.
It's very interesting for me to hear, how that came to life because I literally just finished the book last night, like before we were doing this interview. And so it's very fun for me to hear about your own experiences with shady art dealers and, with criminals and with con artists and with art forgers because all of that shows up in the book. And so just drawing the line from one to the next, I think is super interesting. And so, that's fun for me to kind of hear about all of that and how your real life experiences kind of inspire this fantastic story.
Yeah,
Um,
it's as far as the fiction in this category goes. Um, it's kind of a small subcategory of art crime,
mhm.
to focus on forgery. But actually, the interest in it is growing. But there's so many art crimes now that get advertised that, well, I don't know. You have to be alert to it maybe to notice. So, and art crime is something that people don't realize is enormous.
Mhm.
And it's 6 to 8 crooked billion a year is coming from art crime.
Yeah, it's huge.
It supports terrorism, it supports gun running, it supports drug trafficking, money laundering, tax evasion. I mean, you name it. And
Hmm.
it's the favorite of wealthy people to, uh, uh, anyway, so I do try to educate. Here comes my teaching part.
Yeah.
Educate the public to what the art world, underworld, where they blend together, is all about, and how dangerous it is, and how much it runs things behind most of our backs, unless we're
Mhm.
wealthy people that collect.
Right.
So I was trying to have several layers to the story, not have it be entertaining, exciting, a good love story, a complex love story, and educate to some extent, and have a psychological depth to the characters and the meaning of art forgery and art crime to many, many people. So I was trying to do a lot of different things. I don't know how you feel I succeeded.
No, I was just gonna say, I feel like you checked all of those boxes to be honest. Because I think I don't know, just in my opinion, it worked really well as, like you said, a very fast-paced, like psychological thriller type story. Being an art teacher, I loved the very specific references to actual paintings, and so I think there's that depth there for those of us that are art fans. But yet at the same time, if you don't know anything about art, I think it's still accessible to people. I think it's written in a way where, those ideas are accessible, and it's a good introduction to all of those things where, maybe there's enough that, like, your interest is piqued because there are some things about, art forgery that fascinate all of us. But then when you really dive in, it really, you get invested in that world as you're reading the book, for lack of a better term. It really feels like the depth is there, and it tells a good story of everything that's going on when you have those shady art dealers, when you have the villains of the story, and it does a very good job of talking about, all of the unsavory things that are going on with that as well.
And I think, I was trying I thank you for that. That was really nice to hear. Thank you. We want to please the readers, so I'm glad one is.
No, job well done, I will say. I really loved it.
So I had, any book is very hard to write. It's a lot of effort and blood, sweat, and tears, the thing. But there is a lot of fun in this kind of thing. The learning, the research, and the creation of these situations. Forgery stories have this kind of fascinating quality, typically. Even the ones you see in the newspaper or in the art magazines. So I don't think it would be hard to get anybody interested.
No, I think you're right. Okay, I have two questions for you to kind of wrap things up. First one is just for me personally. As soon as I put the book down, I was like, I'm ready to read more about Kate O'Dade. Do you have more plans for her? Like, are there future books coming, or are you working on anything else with her as a character?
Oh, yeah. So this is that story. And, I have difficulty being brief. I do apologize. Anyway, I want to get the whole story out, you see. But
yeah.
So there is a prequel, and that's the first novel I wrote, which is about her.
Okay.
And it's about her, and the Nick Forger guy isn't in that story, but several of the other characters are in the one you read. And so I think the publisher, given this does decently, wants to publish that one next in actually the end of the year, possibly. Who knows? But then I have one planned for the sequel to this one, which would involve Nick, Kate, and Cromwell, the art investigator.
Yeah. Yep.
And I thought it might circle around that lost Vermeer, the concert, that
okay.
was stolen in the Gardner heist.
Yes.
Now be worth, if found.
Oh, goodness. Who knows?
Worth more than was they say, than was paid for this Leonardo, the Leonardo.
Yes.
At a price that sold for $450 million.
I was going to say, it was like, 400 some $million. Yeah.
It would be more than that.
Mm-hmm.
The concert.
Last thing to wrap things up, if people are interested in finding this book, where can they find it?
Well, it's on Amazon now.
Easy enough.
I think it might be in all its forms now. It's certainly there as an ebook, but I think it's a paperback and hardback as well.
We'll make sure we give a link to everybody so they can find it. So, all right. Well, Sheila, thank you so much. It's been great talking to you. Appreciate your time. Love the book, and really enjoyed talking to you today.
Well, thanks so much for putting up with my and I enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you so much to Sheila for that conversation. Again, if you're interested in the book, it's called Artist, Lover, Forger, Thief, and we will link to the book in the show notes if you're interested in picking up a copy. And if you end up reading it, I would love to hear your thoughts. So shoot me an email. Tell me what you think. TimothyBogats@theartofeducation.edu. I'm also going to link back to some older podcast episodes that we've done about art crimes or forgeries or other stories from the art world that may be of interest, like the stories that might help you engage your students and get them interested in a little bit more about the world of art. So hopefully you can find something in all of those resources that can give you some good stories to take back to your classroom. Art Ed Radio is produced by The Art of Education with audio engineering from Michael Crocker. Thank you, as always, for listening to the show. Please share this episode with someone who might find it worthwhile, might find it interesting. If you are loving the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. We appreciate the ratings and we read all of the reviews.